Hello everyone, my name is Robyn Boere and I'm a lecturer in Christian ethics at the University of St. Andrews. In fact, I'm speaking to you today from Scotland, which is quite the technological marvel. I attended Lonergan on the Edge for quite a number of years when I was a graduate student, and it's really lovely to be with you again in this small way. Lonergan on the Edge is truly a very special conference, and not only because of its name. It's really where I got to explore Lonergan's thoughts, and especially it's where I made some of my closest scholarly friendships. And for those reasons, I think that it holds a really special place in my heart as far as academic conferences go. I was asked to send a short video talking about what Lonergan has to offer us in our current times, especially the challenges that we face. When I think of our current challenges, especially the pandemic, racial injustice, ecological destruction, and economic oppression, for me, one of the biggest contributions Lonergan has made is that he outlined a method that enables us to link personal knowledge, self-transcendence, personal action to both the intersubjective and the interpersonal, and to the world of empirical data. In a paraphrase of Lowe, Lonergan in his writings invites theology, moral theology included, I think, as demonstrated by some Lonergan scholars like Pat, Bern, and Bob, to enrich itself with the discoveries of the empirical and human sciences and of historical consciousness. What this means for our current challenges for the pandemic, racial justice, environmental degradation, economic oppression, is that Lonergan has given us a methodology from which to examine ourselves, our actions, our beliefs, our thoughts, in a way that's not cut off from the real world, not cut off from the world of lived experience, not cut off from love of neighbor, not cut off from the data of experience. Scientific data, like public health data on disease control and vaccines, for example, does not stand in opposition to religious belief, but rather it's proper to our understanding of our lived experience, which is never separate from our religious knowledge. I attended a conference yesterday, in fact, where a presenter traced 4 types of ethical approaches, some which focused on the difference between theory and praxis meaning how things really are on the ground. Others would focus on the difference between theoretical reasoning and practical reasoning. Others which looked to narrative to dissolve these differences entirely, and others which focused especially on the difference between theology and ethics. The presenter said that all these raised distinct but important questions. But while he thought these approaches complementary, he didn't have a way to bring them together, to fit them into a larger scheme, to unite these questions in a coherent way that didn't erase the distinctions or ignore the questions that were raised. An approach that enables us to bring all these questions and distinctions together is crucial. Contemporary ethics, both secular and theological, is characterized by general bias, by thinking that practical action can save everything. But the ethical response to the pandemic has revealed the absolute inability of only the practical data-level measures to take appropriate collective action. Amid the contrary voices, each screaming, "Listen to the data," Lonergan gives us the tools to recognize that data doesn't do anything on its own. Everyone feels strongly about taking action, but what actions do we take? There's no first level and fourth level of intentional consciousness separable from and apart from the second and third levels. Lonergan's method makes it clear that we cannot bracket off parts of our consciousness and hope to arrive at truth. Data and experience must be integrated into understanding and reason, which consider it, measure it, integrate it with other factors like the importance of social interaction, especially for children, economic realities, and so on. We must ask and answer all the relevant questions. And we must strive to do this collectively, something that humans in their intersubjective nature were always meant to do. To achieve authentic subjectivity, to achieve objective knowledge, which we all know is the fruit of authentic subjectivity, to achieve right action, we need not fear questions, not bracket them out, but embrace them. And most helpfully, I think, Lonergan has named ways in which we try to escape from asking and answering these relevant questions, through dramatic individual, group, and general bias. For example, Canada, my own home country, Canada's response to the pandemic, as to issues of racial and economic injustice, often present a really good example of group bias. Canadians rest on our laurels of not being as bad as the US, and reinforce a collective blindness to our own injustices, to our failure to protect the elderly in care homes from the ravages of the pandemic, which stem from us trying to save money on the care for the elderly, to our environmental damage because, well, we recycle, to our racial injustices against people of color and especially against our own Indigenous peoples who face significant oppression. And finally, the real gift that Lonergan gives us is that he does not leave us to undertake this relying on our own human powers. Evil, in fact, is not eliminated through power at all, neither our power nor the power of others, and not even the power of God. Instead, redemption comes from submitting to evils, as exemplified by Christ. And note, this doesn't mean forcing others to submit to evil on our behalf. And by God's grace and goodwill, then, transforming these evils into goods. Even in his most philosophical places, Lonergan is a theologian who knows that it is God who leads us to conversion, God who is the source of faith and hope, God who enables us to fall in love with love, and that love transforms absolutely everything.